All right, there we are, everybody. Scott Stevens here with another perspective as we look at our Monday and Wednesday, today being Wednesday, the 21st of October, view of some of the things that I'm kind of considering are important going on around the world today. Whether always towards the top of the list, it is so important in so many features, whether it's the markets or food or traveling just to and from work. Whether it's up there, so is the ability to transact goods, money, the liquidity of the markets. The Fed certainly helped with that lately. Then the other thing, which is in many, many ways the paramount, the foundation of that happens to be one's safety. One's safety is something that the forefathers, Benjamin Franklin, talking about, and there's even this long-lasting quote essentially saying, if you'll trade your freedom or security for your liberty for safety, you'll end up with neither. And we've been kind of cornered as a people, as a population, and not just in the United States. Absolutely not just in the United States. This is a formula which works across many, many different paradigms, across many different types of government, is that if you can make people feel insecure, if you can bring that to their doorsteps, so when that threat is at their doorsteps, they will say, hey, come on in. I need help. I need to feel like I'm in a safe place so I can sleep tonight. And there is some truth to that. So it's not like it is an unfounded threat or an unfounded need, that desire for security. Children are in that situation, especially when they find themselves in unsafe homes, whether it's natural parents or adopted foster parents. Safety figures in a great deal as to how you view the world, how you grow up, and how you interact with other people. Safety and security is a big, big part of that. All right, where we're going to go today, and we'll head over to Facebook. If you've hit me on Facebook, Scott.Stevens 1276, and hit that. There's a question I posed a couple hours ago about what you're doing as we approach this event. Whatever this event is, I don't know, but we're approaching it. And I'm kind of curious how your family, have you discussed this? What are your intentions? What are your plans? What's going to go with that? Let's get back here to the title of this guy. So I'm going to call it Hunker Down or Bug Out, the quest for safety on this 21st of October. There's my contact information, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I'm going to begin with this. All situations are different. We have to grant people that no one, not even a couple living in the same home, are on the same page as about how to contend with this situation, whatever it ends up being. But all situations are different, even just slightly so. Physical stamina, one's physical location or the starting place, family connections. I can't leave my family. I can't leave my kids. I can't. Or I can, and we should. Both points of view are valid depending on their situation. Monetary resources, that is always a concern. Few, if any of us, have the millions to have a Gulfstream 5 fueled up, a pilot on standby to where they can call and say, let's go. And then that single aircraft, that business jet that can load 9 people, a good set of luggage, and can make a leap for 7,000 nautical miles to a far distant land. That's just not an option. And even when you get there, was it the right thing to do? So we have monetary resources, imaginative skills to problem solve. What are the problems that will confront us, and how will we use that imagination, that potential life set of skills to solve that problem? Some even have military training. That is amazing. That is an incredible gift to have at least one of those persons in your family. Have you already completed preparations, whether it's food, whether it's knowledge of your neighbors, whether it's securing eyes on the property? Who knows? Everybody's situation is different. All of us have medical needs. Some of us have very few, if any. But the ultimate skill of stillness, so that one can hear. Can you quiet the house? Can you quiet your head? Can you quiet the thoughts so that impulse, that still small voice, can give you that guidance that cannot be found in your tribe through the computer or somewhere else? Can you find that quiet place? So being able to see without eyes and listen without ears, and then to know without thinking, and these are the tried and true honed skills of a hunter and a survivor. So what we found ourselves in is an unstable stability, a system that looks fine, an apparatus, a financial system, education system, a transportation, a foodstuffs delivery system, which looks fine, even though we recognize their problems. And COVID made some of that bare, but I'm sure most folks out there sense that it's all fixed. It's all fixed. There's nothing to worry about. I don't need to keep the kitchen stocked. Let's use what we've already purchased because money is short. We've lost an income, and that hasn't come back yet. And 39 weeks of unemployment is more than 2/3 done. What do we do? So what has become unstable for us to even begin to ask this question? And how you answer what has become unstable for us to even be asking this question also will vary by the individual, by the family, by the situation. Sometimes it's the ATM card that just runs out of money long before the fridge runs out of food. Or maybe it's the other way around. The fridge is empty and the debit card is also empty. That food insecurity can move people into actions, into situations that would never be considered otherwise. So what's become unstable? The news is certainly full of things, and I'm sure we've all seen those. So we'll start with this. He said that there's no clear-cut answers. It's opinion based on opinions, and opinions formed from where you are right now. And right now, you don't know and I don't know. And we won't know until we know. And at that point, is your preparation done? Have you gamed out, planned out, emotionally prepared, logistically prepared? Maybe all of that work done to stock the house, to prepare for armaments. That's certainly a situation. Or for surveilling the neighborhood, your front and back doors, even your side windows, keeping that car full of gas. Maybe that'll be enough. Maybe it won't be. The Economist is an interesting magazine. We know who it's published by. And they usually telegraph things ahead of time. And they're fairly honest. They have to be. It's part of karmic rules, is that you telegraph, you tell people what you're going to do so they can accept or reject, so they can alter how they react to your message, to your planned actions. So everything's under control, big government, liberty, and the virus. From their point of view, I'm sure it is. This was April 3rd this year. The next one, a little bit later on, the end of June through July, because you've got to take a summer off. So we just published one issue through the month of July. The next, catastrophe. Which is it? Another virus, a nuclear weapon? Might it be something from the sun? Could it be an object from space in this photograph behind Mother's masked head? Now, we do have an event that NASA has said will be a non-zero risk of impacting the Earth. That comes about within 36 hours of the election. Maybe it's the environment. Maybe it's the sun. Maybe it's a volcano. Maybe it's none of these. But all actions are telegraphed ahead of time. We just need to keep our eyes open. What I see is that these are topics, these are events inside this magazine cover that maybe in time each and every one of them will manifest. Each and every one of them that we will have to confront. There will just be fewer of us after each of them. And maybe it is only 2 that hit the States. Maybe it's 3. But planet-wise, it will likely be all of them. So economic and currency failure may be a consequence of each. If you've watched a few of these shows, you know I'm about finances. I'm a big fan of gold and silver, but Bitcoin, something that you could buy within 20 minutes if you don't have any right now, but you don't have to get out of your comfies, get in the car, and risk going out of the big bad world and not knowing what'll be at the other end to purchase, to put your hard-earned energy, which is now fiat currency, into gold and silver. And then when you need to decompress that money to make it real, to put it back into a currency that everyone is using, you go through that stage once again. You get out of your comfies, you get in your car, and you go somewhere. You emerge back out into the big, bad, scary world, or maybe it's just around the corner. And you know the guy. You have a relationship with that dealer. That's a good thing because then you have been preparing. So let's go through these. Economic and currency failure may be a consequence of each of these. Number one, this is usually the big one. War with once was a previous ally. And one of the big fears in World War II, and one of the reasons we ended up with internment camps, was because they may have or do have sleeper cells or intelligence agents on the ground. Because with a previous ally, the back and forth from businesses, from education, from trade and commerce, allowed a good mixing of populations across both parties, in China or in the States, or in Russia or in the States. It just depends on who it is. Right now, we've gone from massive Russia fear to concern about the sleeping dragon, the other one in the East that now has multiple nations on high alert because they are facing incredible strife inside their nation. One of the nations, Xi Jinping, basically telling his population, go get food. We talked about this on Monday. You need to have months, but at a minimum, weeks worth of food. And we have not heard our leaders usher that just yet. Then it wouldn't matter. It would get derided and called down because that would indicate that something is afoot. Something big is moving, and something that we, because we've been worried about other things, haven't talked to the population about. So the other one being earthquake, meteor, or flood, or some other kind of natural disaster. This also on The Economist's front page of that July issue of The Economist. Civil unrest. And in many ways, this one concerns me the greatest. Civil unrest because it is unknown where it would manifest. Who would have in April guessed Minneapolis? Followed quickly by Portland, although Portland has been in a bit of chaos along with Seattle since the election in 2016. But then to look back from our point towards the end of October at the streets of Manhattan and seeing restaurant after storefront, these flagship stores representing businesses that had been in business for 150 years, boarded up, and in some cases, bankrupt. Did anybody anticipate that? We thought we might see some of this when I was watching Wuhan back in January. But to go through this, and this event, that's just freaking crazy. That could never happen. Yet, here we are. And the other issue that just showed up over here is vaccination. And that is something that I haven't even gone into, but we can in a moment. Ultimately, all of this unrest, all of this concern over the future comes down to a disruption of logistics. Logistics in banking, to pay the shipper overseas, to pay the railroad company to deliver, to pay the truck driver to bring that product the last 100 miles or the last 10 miles. And then, of course, the last mile dealing with the post office, also dealing with their own issues now surrounding the election. So, logistics disruption, the last one, or an apocalypse driven by secrets revealed. Us, we, the population, the citizenry, the taxpayers, those of us who don't have a say at the table of government, learning the secrets that have been hidden behind closed doors. Closed doors closed to us for centuries. We learn their nasty secrets. We learn why they kept those doors closed and why only a few were invited to the table. But to be partaking of a meal at the table, one had to then compromise themselves to be blackmailable. This is how you keep control. So if the people see an apocalypse, which is nothing more than a revealing of the truth, driven by this process of secrets revealed, ultimately would reveal or result in a loss of trust. And our money says, in God we trust. Who is the God? The God of money? The God of the printing press? The God of the Federal Reserve and the bankers? And whom do they worship? That's part of secrets revealed. Back to the elections, which might be a big trigger for all of this. Location after location, finding players of unscrupulous natures, stealing ballots, prying open community mailboxes, forging signatures. When we have, 38 counties or 38 states, all of those which have more people registered than there is population eligible to vote, something's amiss. If it requires a license for you to drive the car, to buy alcohol, then I don't think that is a bridge too far to require of someone to participate in the process of elections. And so, as we stand back and go, okay, then what do we do? Where do I go? You can't go to places you thought you once could. With the virus now, a matter of life and death. It's just a matter of life. Everywhere you go, doesn't matter the place. There is a gate that you must walk through, proving A, you're clean, or you're just not welcome because you come from XXX, wherever that is. This now being a global community that used to be so small that you could go from corner to corner of this planet in less than a day. And now you can't. So, with the virus now a matter of life from here on out, escaping to an exotic remote island doesn't even seem like it's an option. And even then, if supplies get restricted, will they want a stranger, a foreigner, a person who does not speak that language, using the precious supplies sent to that island, grown on that island? We're kind of circling the wagons. And you've got to question who will be there. Now, as we look at this, what to keep in your car, if you haven't already gone through these kind of lists, that's crazy. That's crazy. If you got a brand new car and it's clean, okay, that's one thing. Get to work. Put these things, and these lists are all over the net. Organic preppers, urban survival, these lists are everywhere. So this is not a surprise. There is nothing exotic in this. These are simple requirements that your hands, your feet, your eyes, your tongue touches over the course of maybe a single month. And you buy them occasionally in bulk, and they go into the garage. They sit in the pantry. They go in a closet. But they're there. It's when you choose to leave that you need to decide what to take. And that becomes, in a way, a cognitive dissonance because circumstances have put you where you are. And you've made it your home, you've nested. And when you choose to leave your nest, you are willingly choosing to travel into and partake of someone else's territory. That can give one the willies. So if we do see some unrest, the thought has been, well, call 911 if I need help, if there's an intruder. But we've, believe it or not, had this agenda where we defund the police. I have the sense that mentality has gotten just about as far as it's going to go. It'll probably go no further. That thin blue line, I think we all need to know that that's there, because as soon as that threat of the law enforcement showing up, people tend to behave. We're not quite to the point where the consciousness is evolved enough to where a true system of anarchy, of personal responsibility, of being true human beings is here yet. There might be locations, there might be small tribes, there might be gatherings, and if you found them, good for you. God bless you. And you're ahead of the vast majority of the people. But there's still going to be this need for this. So we're going to pop over to Facebook here in a moment. But we must all consider one's and one's loved ones' security, utilities, foodstuffs, jobs. Because if you leave, then you're also leaving the ability to raise revenue, to make money. And what if there are military actions? That one, outside of unrest, civil unrest, the military actions, I'm thinking on a larger scale, karmically, because of what the United States has done in the past 100 years, there's some of that coming back. That's just part of the swinging of the pendulum, of the back and forth of cause and effect, of cause and effect. How could that karma be settled? Those actions that are hanging out there in the ethers unresolved be dealt with without the large part of the population falling into a warlike situation, into a World War II, into World War III, into a civil war, into some kind of action which then disrupts the logistics of running a nation. So, military actions, geophysical actions, an inner sense with accompanying guidance, I believe is eventually all each one of us have to fall back on to prepare us for our individual knowing that something big is coming. I'm a little weird because I have always liked disaster movies. I don't know why. But I have liked disaster movies. And part of that, I think, has to do with just why I was born at this particular point in time, why I have a mission, and I believe all and each and every one of us has a mission right now to fulfill, to manage, to fulfill. I think that is probably the best word right there. And with that, I'm trying to come over here, cancel, bring this baby out, come over here and bring this full screen. And then I want to go to this discussion because I started it over on Facebook a while back this afternoon. And in doing that, we can come here. So what I was asking for is input, ideas that others have had about this concept of hunker down or escape. With all that's happening in the world right now, is it safe to prepare for shelter in place or to make a plan to leave? But to where? That's really the big question. And that's where it comes down to that inner guidance to be able to listen. All right. And Jude basically says, and I'm going to go full screen here to make this full, plan for both. And I couldn't agree more that for a time being, the plan to stay where you are is probably the most realistic, probably the most reasonable, because to completely upend a family and to go somewhere is a lot like what we have seen and some powers that be imposed, mandated, triggered, forced to happen across Africa and Syria and Iraq. And those populations have had no option. Their safety demanded that they pack up and leave with nothing more than a suitcase or two, largely just one suitcase, because carrying two suitcases for who knows how far is a bridge too far to ask. So you bring only the absolute necessary. So you've got to if you stay home, then you've got to put your trust that the turmoil can be endured while you make your stand. And it's kind of curious that we've had so many zombie movies put in front of us where this event happens, whether it's alien, whether it's government, whether it's virus, it doesn't matter. The game, the storyline is very, very similar where we have to hunker down. We stay and put, but the big thriller is the chase. As you leave your safety, your home, because you need milk, because you need bread, because you need beans, because you need power, because you need, then you're putting yourself at risk. And this one, Jody, is probably the most relevant. Get out of the cities. And it's amazing how rural and even in some ways suburban real estate has thrived since March. Once people realize that this is not where I want to be, they hit Zillow, they hit Realtor.com, they went shopping. And as long as the banks were running, I've got a little income, I can make the 3% to 7% down payment. I'm going to go looking for that rural location, even if I don't know the neighbors. I want space to be apart from where I am right now. So there's been this incredible migration out of the urban centers. So, not sure where we're heading, but my hubby has us stocked already, and we either have enough beans and rice and supplies to keep us going for 20 years, or we take them down when they knock on the door. We're probably not all that different, are we? Because we will, as much work as we've gone through to fend our location and to stock up for it, we're going to knock them down at the door if it comes to that. So right now, rural real estate has never been more valuable and sought after. And in the little rural community I am in, there are so many people I have never seen before that have decided to be rural. Right now is absolutely the answer. And in this location, even if you can't buy, well, let's just say if you can't grow a garden for more than 3 or 4 months of the year, it has to be enough. So what the other one I'm concerned about is this type of consciousness, are we prepared for confrontation? And that's a result of this, where someone had, and I saw it on Twitter, taped to their car. Dear neighbor, you've been identified by our group as being a Trump supporter. Your address has been added to our database. This means there's an organization as a target for when we attack should Trump not concede the election. We recommend that you check your home insurance policy and make sure that it's current and that you have adequate fire coverage for fire damage. You've been given a fair warning. As always, remember, it was you that started the Civil War. Be prepared to face severe consequences of your preemptive actions against democracy. I would suppose that would be an opinion, wouldn't it? What is your action? Typically the first, so says Ryan, the first step of conflict is typically self-preservation. And what do you do to preserve? If it's on the porch, do you run inside, close, lock the door, draw the curtains? That's one act. The other, if you've got the keys in the car, do you get in the car, and then flee that way? I guess it depends on the threat. And we're back to the beginning of the show. Why is the system unstable? Why are we even having this discussion? Is it possible, as we kind of alluded to earlier, that we all have this sense? I believe we all come into lives with this sense of knowing what our purpose is. It's that way of the divine kind of guiding us through this role, down through this job. Nope, you've learned all you need there. Let's get you fired, or let's make it so uncomfortable. Let's bring in a really rotten boss. I'm like, I'm out of here. And you go look for that new job. You move the kids, you move the wife, and you move to a new city with a new set of opportunities. And so we are I look back now and I was fired from 3 jobs. And in hindsight, it's like, holy shit, that's exactly what needed to happen, exactly when that happened. So I can't say it was a bad thing. It was what was supposed to happen. So are we dealing with issues from space? Now, we have a president who launched to much, much consternation from all those around a space force because it was perceived that we needed one. And a couple of months afterwards, I began to realize that, well, of course we need one, because once we have a space force, all else we need is a Coast Guard and an Army. It gets rid of the Navy and it gets rid of the Marines. It's those other agencies, those other divisions of the DoD that would be rendered obsolete. If you could have supremacy from space through the atmosphere, and with the weapons that would go with that, in and around even urban centers, there's not a need, because much of what you would need for boots on the ground, we are this far away from being mechanized. Meaning the Marines would not be human beings, but would be Boston Dynamic robotics dropped from above. We're so close to that kind of an issue. Todd saying, I do believe that in approximately a week, we will see a ramp up in total mayhem around the election. Personally, I would head to the Virgin Islands. Nice. Incredible weather, remote, plentiful fruits, veggies, and fishing, and lots of fresh fish. There are also 7,000 islands where one could find peace and solitude as the UF self-destructs, in my humble opinion. I believe in many ways that is probably the course that is set, that it doesn't matter which path we go. It doesn't matter really who gets elected, that this reset is upon us, that this ship, this boat has taken us pretty much as far as it can. And that's been a pretty good distance. It's been a great trip. We have learned a lot. We've had great experiences with each other. and with this experience of a constitutional republic. That doesn't mean that there aren't parts of it that can't be reconstituted, like an MRE, when we get some fresh water, when we find another location where there is liberty. So there's some very curious things in there. Ryan saying, what's personal, business, and community impact for each scenario to be considered? For those with intuition, they should follow it but not act out of fear. And it's very difficult to not react out of intuition in fear, because fear is going to bring about a very mechanized reaction. It's a very, I'm afraid, your fight or flight, one or the other. The subtleness, that still small voice, really cannot be heard when one ends up in fear. D saying, being a Texan and living south of DFW, those thoughts have been on my mind. So much anger spinning around these days. I fear for my family. But where would be most safe should madness erupt? Each time I keep coming back to our home. We have dogs, we have donkeys, and they are the world's best alarm clocks. Home is where we will stay, sending out white light of goodness to all. And I have to say that so many of us have been guided to where we probably should endure and stand our ground, better or worse. I think all of us at one point or another will come to the conclusion that we have to make a choice. Do we stay or do we go? All right, I'm going to pop over here. Let's reshare the screen under this new guy right there. Let's go full screen, and we'll present button is way over there. There we go. Share. All right. Now, we've all done shopping. Some of us have probably done more than we should, and others obviously not enough. Some are really good in the kitchen, and out of rice, beans, and a few spices, something miraculous can happen. But when all you bought was healthy food, when you're motivated, but now you're craving junk food, and the only thing available is kale chips. Oh, my life. I have no self-control. So in order to eat healthy, I need to only have healthy food at home. But sometimes a girl freaking out needs a plate of pasta with some melted cheese and gelato for dessert. Kids are going to be an amazing challenge as we move through this. Considering they have to go to school, Zoom or in person, they're exposed to a lot of things that you and I at our ages were not. Just avoid Epstein Island. Oh, Ryan, I love you. Poking the beast. I think there's a lot more coming in out of there. All right, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. And isn't that the truth? In hindsight, we understand the whys, just like my comment about jobs. Oh, I understand why I couldn't stay there any longer, but only with the gift of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years worth of hindsight does the beauty, the majesty of all of those moving pieces become clear. And then the understanding of to why and the lessons learned makes perfect sense. So I said that would happen. Distorted memory. It did happen. That was inevitable. I knew that would happen. Predictability. And being and coming from the meteorology, the weatherman, where every single day I had to get up 3 times a day and predict, means I had to look at the current conditions, put that wet finger up in the air and see which way the winds are blowing, look at the models, and then find patterns. And then from the wisdom of having done it before, you can safely predict something is coming. A storm is afoot. How big a storm it is, I don't know. But one does not discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time. All right, so this might be the most difficult task facing us. Letting go of the little minutia of the day-to-day noise that intentionally traps each of us into keeping our attention, of always having our skin in the game. In the narrative that is presented to us in that 22 minutes of evening news, along with 7 minutes of pharmaceutical ads, they want your attention. They want you to choose one side or another. And once chosen, you have to defend the decision. to defend the characters in that play. You become a part of it. Is it possible to trust in the flow, to prepare for what's coming, but then be able to let go? Letting go of the desired outcome may allow us to see the perfect outcome for each of us as individuals. Just as we all began this game at a different place on the game board, on the chessboard, we will all once again land on our feet, but yet in a different state of being, in a different part of that chessboard. This is how growth, progress, and divine evolution moves each of those individual game pieces one step closer to home. And that's what we have to realize this is. It's just a game of evolution. It hurts. It's annoying as F, but we're in a game. And they want you to choose a side, to become invested in a side, to know that your life will not be the same if you don't choose the right side. But either way, we'll all land on our feet. Even those that don't live through it will still land on their feet. All right, Coffee Break Show with Victoria Helm, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock with guests on Wednesday, and I show up on Fridays as we wrap up the week. She is now on iHeartRadio. Tracy Wilson on Tuesday, Thursdays, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and here I am on Mondays and into Wednesdays and Wednesday. Yeah, M and W. It's not that difficult, Scott, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes you don't know what to do. And in that chaos, that's where the fun part of creation actually happens, because what was predictable becomes unpredictable. And in some ways, that's exciting because, and I can guarantee you, they have a plan, but so does a higher power. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you in there, and I'll get you into the comments a little bit later after the show, but I'll catch you on Monday for another perspective. We'll be in the last week before election, and it's crazy because there's all kinds of apocalyptic things happening. The discovery of what was hidden continues to march forward. Enjoy the show. Keep looking up.